Iron Man. This is a 2008 superhero film set in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this film is directed by Jon Favreau. The plot is we see Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr., when he was being taken prison in Afghanistan with the Ten Rings, along with Yinsen. He escapes by building an Iron Man suit, but when he turns back home, he starts to build his own Iron Man suits to become the hero known as Iron Man. But it's not until he figured out who was behind the Ten Rings, or the weapons designer who wants to use Stark's weapons against not just him, but America himself. Now, what do I think of Iron Man is, I love this movie. Come on, it's obvious. This film, it still holds up to this day as one of the best origin stories. Right up there with Batman Begins and the very first Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire, because this film means so much to me. Every time I watch it, it gets better each viewing. It's just because it become a bigger, wider universe. Even post Endgame, it became such a big thing for this movie. Wow, I cannot believe this movie is so good. This is such a great film, such an amazing movie. Robert Downey Jr., come on. That is probably the biggest, riskiest, but yet bold choice that Marvel has picked out of this casting, because when you look at Robert Downey Jr., look at back in the past, before this movie was peaked. But when he came in, he was all back in the prison. He's been through drugs and in the prison, courts, and all this stuff has been going on around him. But when he came back for rehab and he's back to acting, people were saying, really, you're picking him? But Marvel pulled it off. They picked the right casting because they do have faith that this movie could succeed. Because think about this, because you look at this now, if this movie failed by any stretch of the imagination, the MCU will not happen. We wouldn't have the Avengers. We wouldn't have Captain America, Thor, MCU Spider-Man, Fantastic Four in the future, or maybe even Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, Eternals, Captain Marvel. All these Marvel characters that we all see now it was all thanks to this. All thanks to this character. All thanks to Iron Man. Back to Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. His performance is amazing. There's no denying how Robert Downey Jr. pulled it off. He doesn't phone it in. He doesn't just give out one lazy performance. He just plays the character. He's like playing himself, but he's playing a Tony Stark character, if you know what I mean. He's such a great actor. I think Robert Downey Jr. gets a lot more credit than he used to as he was. And now, looking back on it, it makes it so perfect, so watchable, so made it likable for Tony Stark. Especially the one scene where he's gambling, of course, Rhodey, played by Terrence Howard, who is just gambling. Of course, he doesn't care about winning the award. And of course, Rhodey said, oh, you've missed out, all that jazz. And of course, the whole thing of his assistant, Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow, I think she's a fine actress, and there's no typical love story between them. Yes, there are little hints of it, there's a little romance going into it, but it wasn't just going, oh, they're just there as assistant, she's there to be a damsel in distress. But no, she does have nothing on her own, and of course, the whole Tony Stark stuff he does with Pepper, especially at the dance ball with the dance, and there's a bit of a spark going on. Of course, Terrence Howard as Rhodey, James Rhodes. Terrence Howard is fine as James Rhodes. He's fine for the most part. I prefer Don Cheadle because Terrence Howard only appeared in one movie, and of course, 15 years later, he's not returned because we were so used to Don Cheadle. Which I think Don Cheadle is a better Rhodes, if you know what I mean. I think he's a better James Rhodey, aka War Machine, who's soon to be in the sequels, and of course the MCU in general. But that's a whole other thing. As for the Iron Man suit itself, like this suit itself, it's made of probably mixture of practical suit, but yet with CGI on it, which I thought that was really well done. Even look at today, it still holds up. Again, I'm going to keep saying this, holds up. This movie continues to hold up on a pedestal like it's the second coming of Jesus. Let's just put that straight out. It looks, it's just by that, technology-wise, the way it moves, the way it does the wee, everything. Just, it has a right mix of practical and CGI, which Marvel has still been used to this day. And you can say, oh, Marvel is just using too much CGI. you're not wrong, but Marvel knows how to use CGI appropriately where it feels seamless and doesn't come across as cartoony or too overblown as CGI. Green Lantern 2011. Think about it, it does look actually legit. Let's just put that to the side. For the rest of the story goes, the story is pretty forward. It's an origin story, follows a similar beats like every other superhero origin story, but it does add some layers to Tony's character, him, that when he becomes Iron Man, he knows deep in his heart is right, even though deep down alive for a reason, he's not dead yet. Now, looking at the bigger picture of things, it makes sense how it all builds up from his character arc from the first film all the way up to Endgame to his sacrifice, which I thought was a really nice, unique style to it, which I thought was really unique to it. As far as the villain, Jeff Bridges as Obadiah Stane, aka Ironmonger, who comes to the end. Jeff Bridges I do like as an actor, and Obadiah Stane as a character, he was fine. There's not much interest about him, but he does have a unique stuff going into him, especially his relationship with Tony, and of course him wants to take over the company because after everyone starts dead, so he can have the weapons and everything that he wants. Of course, he stole the suit and he becomes Ironmonger, which is a thing that's mostly CGI, mostly with practical stuff there. But that being said, it's really good. Especially Tony has a relationship or friendship with this prisoner named Jensen, who is a prisoner himself, helping him to build the Iron Man suit. And of course, he gave him the words of advice about him, don't waste your life, Stark, don't waste it. Especially right at the end with Endgame, which they didn't waste that at all. It felt, again, I'm over-exaggerating here. This is everything connected from the Endgame. It just pays it off. Especially Pepper Potts, who give Tony a gift of this art reactor, especially when it says proof that Tony Stark has a heart. Every time I see that, it just takes me back to Endgame with the funeral with the flowers on the lake. Again, perfect, just perfect. Action scenes go, the action is pretty enjoyable. It has some unique action. It wasn't boring, it wasn't trying over the top explosions. It's just simple action throughout and mostly entertaining. As for the climax between Iron Man and Ironmonger, it's fine. It's not amazing. It's not great, but it's not terrible. But I think it's good for the most part. I think it's still enjoyable. And of course, Pepper Potts does help out. Of course, I forgot to mention another character, Agent Phil Coulson, played by Clark Gregg. He's great. I always liked the character, and he's just very interesting how he brought into this. And of course, now he's become a big character since Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know what I'm talking about. He's such a fan favourite character. As for Jon Favreau directing, of course, he plays Happy Hogan in the MCU throughout. Jon Favreau, he's a great director. He directed so many great films like Elf. And of course, he directed Chef, which I've not seen yet. Cowboys and Aliens I've not seen, but I've heard not good things about. And of course, he directed Iron Man 2, which we'll get to that another time. We'll talk about Iron Man 2 another time. As far as other films, The Jungle Book, the live-action remake, I really liked. The Lion King, yeah, I've said what I said about it. But Jon Favreau is a great director. I have nothing against it. Even if he made some good movies or bad movies, he just has so much talent. And of course, he's now the director of some of the episodes and also the creator of The Mandalorian for Star Wars, which is something you don't see every day. The ending is just so great. He's announced himself, I am Iron Man, and everyone stood up for it. So it's kind of like, instead of keeping a secret identity, he just spreads the word saying, yes, I am Iron Man. And of course, the post-credit scene, which, one thing I will say this, I missed the post-credit scene when this film came out. I didn't see the post-credit scene, especially when Nick Fury is behind that glass window and he says, I am Iron Man. You think you're the only superhero in the world? I'm here to talk about the Avengers Initiative. By that day, he says that by the end of this film, time to run its theaters, the MCU is born. Overall, Iron Man is such a great film. It's just one of those movies that I personally love. Every time I watch it, it gets better and better and better. And it's probably my favourite Iron Man. It's still, to this day, my favourite Iron Man movie. My rating for Iron Man, I'm either between worth watching 4K or a cinematic masterpiece. Cinematic masterpiece. It's such a great film. I love this movie. I do. It's such a great film. Comment down below, what do you think of Iron Man? Do you love it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Or do you think it's alright? Comment down below what you think. And of course, guys, until next time, happy 15th anniversary to Iron Man and the MCU.